And we're live. Content provided at the event is for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Any performance reference is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Any economic forecast set forth during the event may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that any strategy will be successful. These thoughts and opinions are those of Gimbal Financial and do not represent the views of LPL Financial. Securities offered through LPL Financial, a member of FINRA and SIPC. Investment advice offered through Gimbal Financial, registered investment advisor, and separate entity from LPL Financial.
Wow, nice work, Amanda. Good to see you back. We added a little ice to our springtime instead of our water this week, didn't we?
We sure did. We got some snow, and you guys are twinning today.
That's
We're
right.
twinning?
Winning and twinning.
What have you guys been up to these last couple weeks? We didn't have this last week.
I think this is only our second one of April.
Well, there you go. I bet our fans are missing us.
Last week I was in Nashville, Tennessee. I was meeting with a group of guys called Iron Sharpens Iron, and a good friend of Keith's started this group, and I just really grown to appreciate them. I view them kind of as a board of directors in life, and I hope you guys have somebody like that you can talk business and personal things, spiritual things. It's just a great thing to get away and do that every now and then. So I missed you guys online, but that's what I was doing last weekend.
Very cool. Very cool.
Keith, you had a pretty cool Friday as well.
Yeah, I set out to see if I could finish life last week, and it felt like it from time to time. There's a place in southern Indiana called the Knobstone Trail, and it's a 47-mile hike, and it has the feel of maybe the Appalachian Trail. I don't know the Appalachian Trail, maybe the Smoky Mountains. And Caitlin and I, my daughter, strapped on our backpacks. Mine was 30 pounds. I don't know how much hers was, but it was quite a workout. We did somewhere between 28 and 30 miles. I would say 30. Caitlin would say 28. So
Indiana is a cool state.
It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe the stuff I saw on that trail. We saw some lizard that had a metallic underbelly, like a blue metallic color, that I had no idea that there was even such a thing in Indiana. So it was a cool experience.
Well, then I'll thank you extra for being here today, because I do know how rough it was. So your presence is a blessing today. Thank you.
Well, I burned through a bunch of calories, and I discovered, because Connie, my wife, was kind enough to be our shuttle, which is basically driving towards Seymour, Indiana, back from Fisher's twice in 2 days, and to drop us off, to pick us up. But I needed calories, which is not a normal thing for me to say, but we burned through a bazillion calories. And Austin, Indiana, if you just want to go for a fun car ride, you get to Austin, Indiana any way you can. But they have one of the original Dairy Queens there that doesn't even look like a modern day Dairy Queen. It's just worth the stop for some ice cream. So that's your highlight for me this week.
And speaking of feedback, I was talking with a client this week. We had an annual review, and in the annual review, what we like to talk about are, how have things been going for you? What's your personal cash flow and finances looking like? Are things changing year over year? How about your risk tolerance, your time horizon, your growth objective? We like to talk about what you own and how much you're paying for it. And then if there's stuff that you just don't want us to buy. A few years ago, I had a friend of mine say, Doug, don't buy me any more McDonald's. He had a personal bias against fast food companies. He's a health guy. And so we want to know stuff like that. But one of the things that this person did is they gave me some just great and honest, open feedback. They say, hey, Doug, your account view at LPL is no good. It does not help me. And I said, what do you mean it doesn't help you? And so I got on there with him and we walked through performance. He's basically trying to figure out, is he moving the needle or not? And I know that's what many of you are wondering yourself. Am I moving the needle? And so if this is something that you're struggling with to see or even quantify, we want to know that. We want to help you. We want to help you. And even though the account view may not be as clear as you're wanting, we can help you get there through a conversation or maybe even a meeting in Zoom or eyeball to eyeball. And so that stuff's important to us as we're moving on. We got tax season done for most of us. If you're like me, maybe you got a couple of weeks left to either stroke that check or sign the deadline. But just moving on into the summertime is normally a slower month for a lot of us and a good time to get together with Keith or me and Amanda, Deb, and let's talk about what you have going on in your finances.
Yeah, I was working on tax returns for members of the family past 10 o'clock last night, which usually I try to shut the brain down around 9:30 or so.
You were working past 4 o'clock?
Yeah. Yeah, 4's awful late.
Amanda, she's always here. She's here 24/7. You know, Deb, she's here at least 4 days a week, 24/7. But Keith, oh man.
Yeah, I try to sneak out of here. It's a little late in the day today, isn't it?
Just kidding. No, I probably got Keith all off track there.
No.
Hey, I want to tell you, today is my son's 16th birthday. And so for his birthday, a good financial planner comes out and says, "Happy birthday, son." And I say, "Do you have any idea what the spending power of a dollar was in 2005 versus 2021?
Thanks, Dad. That's exactly what I wanted to think about
And so I figured he'd be getting some money today for his birthday. You know, my dad he's a pretty funny guy. He gives you $1. You know, if you're turning 16, you get 16 $1 bills. And so I wanted LJ to know, I think it's $1.37 is what it would take. $1.37 is what it'd take in 2021 to equal $1 in 2005.
Now, your dad likes a good joke, so should he, where's my calculator? Should LJ be calling your
there you go.
16 times $1.30?
There you go. There you go.
In case he's listening today, we want to make sure he gets this right. 167. You said $1.67?
I'm sorry, $1.37. $1.37. I think I
16.
misspoke. Yeah,
$21.92 is what LJ is.
Okay, we need to be aiming for $21.92 today.
Yeah,
okay,
there we go.
Yeah,
That's
a good word. Yeah,
And no beers, just still 21. He's 16. So let's just keep that in mind.
But again, you know, this is, I know it's kind of a dorky thing to do, but this is why we invest money. Is we need to offset that. We need to fight. We need to do the best we can against it. Do we get it right every time? No. When you're taking risks, stuff can go the other way. I think I read a while back ago that a bear market, you know, or even a pullback happens every 9 months. Pull back 5-10% on your money. That's real.
Can be painful.
Can be very painful.
I was having a conversation with some folks that they have substantial wealth, and let's just estimate it's $5 million, and they're at a place where they don't really need it right now. They're living off other resources, and I suggested to them if they didn't touch it for 15 years, and it got 6%, that 5 million is going to be worth 10 million, and that's just a mind-boggling thing that the 5 million is worth 10 million. But on the other hand, to know that inflation is absorbing some of that is even kind of mind-boggling. And so it's just hard to know how inflation is going to impact your situation. And there's no real reason, I think, to get particularly anxious about it. I think those are the conversations we just have with you and talk through what that means and what's the risk associated with it. We have, I think it's in this month's Anchor, we talked about the idea of when you're 25, you save money for retirement. So we're talking about the psychology in there. And when you hit retirement age, something psychologically changes that you don't want to use those resources for the retirement years, and you want to pass them on to somebody else. And I see this happen on and on over and over again with clients. And it's like, when you save that money, it's for those years. And so sometimes you don't even have to battle inflation if you're planning on just using that money. And so if that gives you more peace of mind to not take the risk, so be it.
And we all have our different motivations for that. I know one of the things I constantly am telling my sons is, hey, this money that we're funneling away in our retirement account, this is for your mom. This is for your mom's future. And so my hope is that my sons remind my wife someday when I'm, enjoying the above ground pool in heaven, is that my sons remind my wife, hey, this is for you to use. This isn't for us. But if my dad's listening, I'm going to buy a boat. I'm going to buy a ski nautique unless you spend all that money, Dad. But no, seriously, what is the purpose behind it? Well, the purpose is to use it. And you might use it, as we've talked about in recent shows, you might use it to bless your kids today, to give them a gift today. You might use it as another client of ours. He took his daughters out to a very nice restaurant for their birthdays. But however you want to convert it, it's an asset today. It's going to be an asset tomorrow. Just what do you want it to do for you?
One of our clients did a really cool thing. And I think this decision to use their resources really even battled against inflation. It's kind of a counterintuitive thing, is that they chose to use money every week to have a little party at their house and invite 2 or 3 friends over and just have a conversation. And Connie and I were included on that one night, and it was really one of the highlights of our years. And I can't imagine that evening cost them more than $20. And that's just an unbelievable investment in the future, not only of your resources, but in friendships and things that go on even beyond our lifetime. So that, who knows how you can take money and use it in a very productive way that most of our peers in the industry really aren't talking about. But I think there's really cool things you can do with those resources that will even, how do you measure a friendship compared to inflation? You know what I mean? Like
right.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. And Keith and I were even talking before this call started just about some success that, we've had personally and what we've been experiencing over the last year. And for me, I've really enjoyed saving up some of my non-retirement money. And, that started with $250 at one point in time and just building and building and building on that. It's kind of like some of you have 401ks or you contribute to IRAs. You don't see the effect of it right away, but over time you realize, boy, we've really put a contribution towards this. And then the market helps, but you're the number one investment because it's your dollars going in. And you were telling me about the building here and what that has done and how you're looking at that today.
Yeah. I think it was in our conversation about inflation, is that if you don't think inflation is real right now, you're maybe not looking around and paying attention, because we're one place where we see the Federal Reserve has created 27 to 30% more money over the last 12 months, and that's inflationary. And the place that it's really obvious is in the housing market. Everybody I talk to across the country, even their housing prices are going up. Well, that's inflationary. It's not the fact that houses are worth more in a real value. It's just people have chosen to take all this cash that the government and the Federal Reserve has created and decided, I want something physical with it. And so there's an old saying is, don't confuse a bull market with intelligence. When everything is going up, you can seem like you're really smart. And that's what I was communicating to Doug, is that as Connie and I bought this building for Gimbal to be the new house for it, the prices around here have gone through the roof. And so it had been really easy. And I did think, man, that was a really smart decision, until I expanded my scope and realized that the housing prices everywhere have gone up. So
a lot of smart people out there, a lot of smart people, a lot of winners.
And it's the same thing with the current stock market. Everybody gets smarter in a bull market until things get a little sketchy, and then humility finds its way back in. And so you don't know when you're in a bull market in the stock market until you're probably done with it. You're like, oh, there it was. You can tell they're going up, but your psyche, your humility and all those things get turned off sometimes. And the same thing with the housing market is that You know, in 2000 to 2006, the coastal properties shot through the roof, and until they didn't. And when they didn't, things got really ugly and housing prices dropped dramatically. And that was probably the first time in 20 or 30 years where people actually learned that housing prices don't go just one way, that there's risk. And the banks were caught in the midst of that. They were believing they're only going up as well. And it was not a very fun time.
And who is the great investor and philosophical thinker who said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face?
I don't know if it was Tyson or one of those boxers.
It's Mike Tyson. And hey, that's the truth. Like, you know, Keith and I have both studied under the certified financial planner designation. And there's a plan. Hey, everybody needs a plan. And that's true. To talk about a plan, that is a good thing. But most of us get punched in the face with something. There's some event in your life that is unique to your situation, unique to our situation, and you got to pivot. And that's why these conversations like this, that's why we do these videos. That's why we call you on the phone. That's why we want to hear back from you too, so that we can pivot and talk about, okay, now what? What's happening now? What happens after you buy a building and it's done well? Or what happens if you've had success in a certain area of the market or your business, or maybe something's just not working? What do you do now? And those are the types of things that we want to generate conversations around.
Or what happens if you plan to hike the Knobstone Trail 2 months in advance? What could go wrong?
It could rain.
It could be hot. There could be no water.
No one likes to camp in the rain.
Yeah, I did that. So what could go wrong? Well, I planned 2 months for the Knobstone, and the last Friday night, a whippoorwill decided to camp directly over the top of us, and we went to bed at 8:30. If that tells you how our Friday went, like we were ready to go to sleep at 8:30. And this whippoorwill just kept going. I'm thinking, if I only had a gun, this whippoorwill would not be there. But I tossed and turned, and muscles I didn't even know were just screaming at me. And what I discovered was that in a normal day, when I walk a mile, I burn less than 200 calories per mile.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Then you strap on my back a 30-pound backpack. And on average, I'd say the slopes down there were 30 degrees, which is a pretty serious slope. And you hike a mile with those variables, all of a sudden you go up to 650 calories per mile. And what it causes you to do is to rethink your plan. Because what I started thinking is, what in the world is in this backpack that I don't need in there?
Yeah.
And so then I think about a financial plan, and I've said this over and over, probably for the last 35 years of my career in different ways. Do you own your stuff, or does your stuff own you? The more stuff you have, the less time you have for your God, your family, yourself. And so the more stuff I put in that backpack, the more complicated my hike got. And the same thing is true with life. The more stuff we pack in this office, the more stuff you pack in your house, your car, whatever, the more complicated things get. And so looking at a plan, and I think we mentioned it in this most recent anchor, is a plan. When you're looking for resources for cash flow, part of that plan might be getting rid of the stuff that's in your backpack that you're dragging along. Because as I was rethinking the hike and maybe doing other parts of it, I thought, what would be best if I did this hike with just a day pack rather than the big backpack I had. And so that made me stop and rethink how I go about doing that. And we've helped a lot of clients over the years rethink how to move forward in their hike of life. And
you might even be at this place where you're going downhill, and it's obvious if you got a lot of weight, debt or whatever it could be going uphill, that's hard. But if you're going downhill, you all have seen a runaway truck ramp, and there's times to sell stuff. And if you can sell some stuff before it turns into disaster, that's part of the plan too. Not holding on to something forever, just being willing to let it go.
Yeah, Connie has been really good at that. When we got married, all my really cool things tended to disappear within a few months. I don't know if that ever happened to you guys, but yeah, I had this coolest brass glass table that I thought was really happening. I had these pictures on the wall and they started to disappear, and we never really had a conversation about them. I just started looking around. But I think if you observe the stuff that's in your life that you haven't really touched or done anything with for 2, 3, 4 years, chances are it's not going to be used in the next 3 or 4 years. And so you might be able to bless somebody with that. You might be able to convert it to cash flow. There's a lot of things you can do with those things, but there's just a benefit to lightening up your load as you move forward.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why I didn't take the time this morning to read it. Amanda, we haven't let you talk for a long time. I see you taking notes, so you got a lot to say. Well, maybe before I go on with my next thought, you could throw out there what we need to know.
My notes are only for compliance purposes. I'm just
Hey, everybody's keeping track of this stuff.
You mean somebody's watching us?
Hey, before you move into whatever it is you're going to talk about, I want to talk about something here that is just, Amanda, this is you and Debbie. You guys just knocked this out of the park. We are having fun. I mean, we had a food truck here. Was it last week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of my, I think every event is my favorite event. And I just really enjoyed that food truck. I hope we can do some more stuff. I know we will, like that as weather warms up. I thought back to the Bob Goff event that we had. Having Bob Goff, if you don't know who Bob Goff is, Google him. And having him come was awesome. And, you know, we've had some great speakers in the past too. Some of this is educational, but it's just been encouraging to me. So I just want to reiterate, nice work on last week's event.
Yeah, I think I would call last week's the new Bob Newhart show. Did you guys ever watch the new Bob Newhart show? They had Daryl and the 3 Daryls. We had the 3 Brandons. So there was only 2 of the Brandons on the food truck, but they at one time had 3 Brandons on there. So that was kind of fun.
We had all ages here. That's what I enjoyed. I mean, little ones to not so little ones.
Yeah, we discovered the Gimbal headquarters is a jungle gym. We didn't have to put anything in. We had kids scaling the building. It was impressive.
What were you going to talk about? I forget. I'm sorry about that.
We've been talking about inflation, and I don't know how many people I've told. People have all kinds of opinions about what's going on in the world today, and to me, it's just deja vu all over again. It just reminds me so much of my teenage years of the 1970s. I'm not going to go into the details because we got friends on both sides of things. But inflation was a thing in the 1970s. A lot of the stuff that's being bantered about is, if you go back and read 1970s history, it's all the same thing. But what I noticed yesterday, and I couldn't find a benchmark index to show it, but a specific investment that we look at that measures the cost of wheat, it was up 5% yesterday. And corn was up 4% yesterday, and soybeans were up 2% yesterday. We're just talking commodities, right? Like those are substantial moves. Usually, my experience has been see those kind of moves with those sort of things towards the fall when the harvest time, and they're getting a better feel of the next supply and demand. So something is going on there, and I'll be watching that in the days ahead. But that really, that's something that's gone on in the last week. We notice a lot of times the market gets a little sketchy right around tax time. So I don't know if you'd say it's April 15th or if you would go out until the May 17th deadline. But what happens is that when these tax bills come in, people are drawing money out of their investments in places to get to send it to the federal government. So that's not an unusual annual cycle where things get a little sketchy. And so we don't have predictive abilities, but I wouldn't be surprised if you noticed your statement in the next month or two not moving the needle upward. It wouldn't be unpredictable to say that. That's been a commonality over the years. I saw these. I'm going to share my screen with some observations we've had. Our software allows us to to look at 197 industry groups. And so you can't invest in these industry groups, and we're not recommending these industry groups. We're just pointing out an observation there. Are you able to see this screen, Amanda?
And in the way I would word that is, this is our front windshield. Those 197 industry groups, as we're looking out, it helps us see what's going on. I'm not trying to drive the car in reverse. And so how do we look forward and look for opportunities? We like to capture, the stock market. You think the S&P 500, that's only 500 stocks, large stocks. So we like to look out through the front windshield of 197 different industry groups.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it gives you an idea of what's actually driving the market at any particular point in time. But we definitely had our eyes on the utilities. I mean, they drop like a rock. That's a shout out to William O'Neill, who's been a guy that we've spent a lot of time studying over the years. He turned 88 a couple of years ago. Sorry, my ADD kicked in. And on his 88th birthday, they sold his media thing that he did just to support his investing habit for $75 million. I'm like, what a great, I don't know what you do with $275 million on your.
I think you ride in the back of a convertible and just wave to people.
Anyway, that's who designed all this stuff that we use. So my ADD kicked in. Sorry about that. But as you look, most of us have been told by so-called gurus and pundits that utilities are safe, which is a lie. This thing dropped 40%, the utility index, from the high of 264 to 161.
Yeah, and some say that's like a bond-like alternative, which nothing is safe out there.
Yeah, and as the market started recovering, this thing just kept trending downward, really sideways for almost all this last year. It's not, here in March, it's not much higher than it was in March a year earlier, but it's finally maybe changing its trend. And so that's really caught our attention of something that's worth paying attention to now. A lot of the things that were leading the way, let's see if I can find one real here. I didn't prepare for these, but I was noticing some of this computer software businesses. Let's see if this one's one of them. It's thinking. It's moving at the
as
speed
that's
of
thinking. The utilities are interesting because yes, there's the kind of the coal and stuff like that, but there are also a lot of these companies are reinvesting themselves into cleaner energy. And you talk about the commodities that move those parts. There's copper and things inside, windmills that are just cutting edge technologies with old school commodities.
Right. And so here's computer software design. Are you able to see that one, Amanda?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even when the market seemed to be hitting new highs, what's going on under the undertow is this thing peaked out back in this sector of the market, peaked out February 16th at 32.53, and then dropped to 2,700, which is a pretty substantial, that's a 15 to 20% drop. And it's now still back at the, probably out over here, the November price range. And so this market has what we call kind of a rollover of leaders and things. And so the utilities who've been out of favor, they seem to be coming back into favor. And then I was going to show you one other one that kind of goes along with what I was showing you with this commodities. What number was that? Oh, it's the 197th ranked one. And here, wholesale food popped up really big yesterday, which is getting food to the market. So there's some correlation, I think, between the wholesale food and what was going on with those commodities yesterday. So don't be surprised. I guess it's to say all that. Don't be surprised if your Kroger bill this weekend is a little higher than you thought it was last week, because those are things that are filtering into the market. And all these decisions that are going on out there that, that costs we're going to raise minimum wage, all these things. Those things they're not going to stop at the business level. They're going to make it to your personal budget.
Cool. Well, that pretty much brings us to our time.
I got one last thing, Amanda. Can I throw out one last thing?
You may. I grant you permission.
Thank you very much. The technology, the innovation, the willingness of people to take risks, to go out and do things that nobody else has ever done before is really what makes America beautiful, I think, in our economy, because there are just ideas that somebody would have never thought of, and today that they're just commonality. And now, we've got a Yeti mug sitting here. We got some cool little foldable glasses on my desk. You can just look on your own desk and see the innovation. But the one that I've been tempted by, which is, this will really shock you, was a tattoo parlor in Brooklyn. Have you heard this?
No.
No.
A tattoo parlor in Brooklyn designed tattoo ink disappears after a year. So any of you hipsters like me that have considered a tattoo, you can now go to Brooklyn and try it out for a year and see if you like it.
I can just see your knuckles. Well, stocks, bonds. I don't know what you put on your knuckles, Keith.
That's all I got. I hope you guys have a good weekend.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Thanks for everyone who came out too. Bye.
Bye.